Welcome, viewers, for another very interesting episode where we have with us once again the Major General SQ Ahmed. And, this is his fourth recording on my podcast channel. And he has already done three recordings. There's one on investing in smart strategies for young adults. The next one is destination investments, exploring the variety of possibilities. And the last one he did was on the tariffs and their impact on investing. And I can share a personal story with you that his recordings are being looked forward to both within my family and friend circle because they find them so useful, those of them who are in the investment environment. And today again, he is going to be talking to us about the present geopolitical situation and the further on tariffs, how it is all impacting on investment, and maybe he'll give you his views on how it may be the approach you may take in this environment. So, welcome once again, Jalal Ahmed. And the first question to you is, in all of this which is happening, what is the sectoral impact in your view? Jalal Ahmed, please.
Sir, thank you very much. Wonderful to be back again, sir. And as I said, we'll be talking about how all this chaos that has happened since 2nd of April, and with so many things developing, the geopolitical situation also coming up in between now, which wasn't expected on 2nd April, has added to multifarious dimension in how the various sectors are going to take place. So to sum it in a very large scale way, sir, I think presently internationally, the situation is very dynamic. Trump tariffs are going to impact in whichever way possible. We'll discuss that issue also. And plus a little bit of geopolitical situation that is being played up, and where India definitely need to give a befitting reply to this heinous crime that has been committed. So definitely there will be impact on the markets because of this. So I think broadly, if we can focus on local grown economies, the economy which is sustained by our own citizens, where we are not much dependent on outside world, is the time to be in presently, say in the foreseeable future of maybe next two quarterly results. So I say that till Diwali, we should start looking inwards, reorientate our portfolio in such a manner that we don't get impacted by what's happening outside. How we do it, how we refine it, as we go through, so we'll talk about it.
So that is so right. It is very nice that you say, and this is something which, as always, is catching my imagination more and more every day, that the India story is rising. And with our impact on the world's economy, our larger GDP and our excellent human resource and our wonderful culture of investment, the stock markets, the number of unicorns which we have seen coming up, and so many fronts, India is progressing and finding its place. And maybe that's something which you just mentioned. Maybe that is
So,
something which should form a part of your portfolio, which I tend to agree with. But anyway, coming back to you, so what do you think in what you just said? What is going to be the probable market behavior? SQ, please.
so So let me take the story from 2nd April onwards as to how the Trump policy has affected the entire world. Maybe most of our audience would have generally seen it, but just to keep it in perspective, there was quite a hue and cry after 2nd April for about 3, 4, 5 days, where the markets across the world were crashing, including the US market and Indian market. And there were a lot of euphoria as to what has gone wrong, why the policies are negatively impacting, whereas the Trump administration thought that he is going to do it very great for America. But even their economy started slipping and their indexes were going down. Uh, taking a cue from that, sir, what happened in the world over? World over thought that if such huge trade tariffs are going to be put, certain people collaborated, certain countries they reacted in a manner in which probably the Trump administration did not think they will react. China became very strong. Europe was not on board. They thought their long-standing ally, to whom the Trump administration has dumped, they also then started showing signs of rejection of the policy. India was finding its own space. Philippines and the eastern countries, which were the manufacturing hub, were also toying the idea as to, in this situation, how do they survive. So, lot of Japan started offloading their what's it called dollars into the market. So this way, it started affecting the U.S. economy in a big way. Their supply chain started getting disrupted. Their bond indices prices started falling, and this was the last probably nail in the whole thing, that the U.S. president could not expect this particular bond index to fall any further beyond, and he needed to take some action. And probably all these things forced him to give that 90-day pause. He wanted to understand, he wanted to now do the probably backyard negotiations as to how does he control this. Ultimate aim being, US wants to protect its manufacturing capability. It does not want this supply chain to go into the hands of smaller economies. It wants to get these things back into America. So probably this pause is probably more for them to understand as to how they are going to take it logically from here. But what has happened in between? Since the supply chain has got erupted, the policies were coming probably not with due thought, and they were for China. They were just increasing the tariff rates, and China also started going. Today, the tariff stands at 145%. Nobody is ready to budge. So now eventually you see how the stance has changed. The Trump administration has started talking to even China on certain sectors that we may look at certain deals going through. When all this started happening, there was a hue and cry within the American society. They are now looking at Christmas few months from today. Now all their gifts, toys, industry, car manufacturing, all these kind of big spending that happens as their festival season come by, for which the US stores start stocking the products, and their supply chain has to be given the order, that started getting hampered even as on date. The 80 to 90% of toys come from China. So it just got stopped. So they don't know how to celebrate. In fact, there were headlines that were started coming on the post that did the Trump administration actually fail in imposing this tariff? Didn't they go through and see through it? A lot of media within the US started reporting this. In fact, I found an interesting article, sir, in the Washington Post, which was reported on the MSNBC channel. I just like to quote them. They started rating Trump as to how the Trump administration has been rated. So it states, how many disapprove of how Trump handling tariffs? Adults 64% disapprove that. Democrats 96% disapprove of that. Independents 70% disapprove of that. And Republicans itself 25% disapprove of that. Now Trump's handling of his job as a president. I mean, this is a very big poll. Now, as per that poll, they said in February his percentage was 45, but after this little thing, his percentage of approval got down to 39%. And similarly, there are a whole lot of like first 100 days of Trump. How do they grade it? 45% have graded it F. So the popularity of the administration also started falling down. Probably these are the reasons why the administration started looking at how to recover from this fall. Probably, sir, this is where the opportunity for India lies. Because US with Europe, which were their great partners from the last 40 years, things are not moving smooth. Europe is also not yielding ways. Europe with Putin, though he tried a bit with Russia, yet it is shaking hands with Ukraine over the deals of minerals, special minerals. US with China is not yielding. Japan has also showed a way which was not expected. So how does the Trump administration keep its face? Probably India stands a chance here. They are looking at India. What India has? India has a big market potential, as you rightly brought out. India has a big manufacturing force within our country. India can replace the supply chains. India can become that station where the US can come and negotiate a deal at favorable terms. Probably it's going to be a win-win situation as seen from the prism today. But how it fans out after the deal comes out, we don't know. What has India got to gain? Probably India is looking to gain certain space in the US markets where the China is moving out to occupy that space. Today, our trade is of $130 billion, whereas China's trade is almost $490 billion. So if we can get little more space there, probably we'll bridge this economic gap with China. So that's probably what India is looking at. What is US looking at? US is looking at cheaper manufacturing facility for the time being. It is also looking at probably a face saving where it can go to the world and tell, see, I negotiated with another larger economy of the world as per my terms on the tariff. So there is quite a bit going on. The visit of the Vice President to India a few weeks back probably came with negotiation table. They said that we have offered our what we want from them, and India is also negotiating. So probably there are a couple of the things which, as per what is coming out in the news, we can think what India is looking, what America is looking. So whatever I could gather from the open source, I think probably most important thing what America is looking presently is a most favored nation status from India, and India is very tough in giving that station that status to anyone, because that has ramifications on equal trade, tariffs, and all that, where India might lose. But still, in these times, this is what America is going to look at. America is also going to look at India giving them space in auto sector, maybe auto ancillary. Probably there were talks that they wanted to reduce the tariff prices on Harley Davidson as a brand itself. Maybe they are also looking at certain EVs of Tesla coming in. Who knows? They may be asking that. Certain other things that I learned was that they are also looking at American dairy and agriculture sector, where India might give the space. And what India is looking in turn, India is looking for the technological break. India is looking at AI. India is looking at making chips. So semiconductors, this is what space India wants from them. So probably this is going to be a hard bargain. And as they say, Trump is a difficult dealer. So this trade deal with India, which is likely to come out maybe in a short while, or whatever time it takes to negotiate, probably I feel should be a little dampener for our markets. And wherever the deal gets materialized, probably those are the sectors we as investors start looking into it. Maybe we'll be able to make a little headway. So
that's a very interesting scope you have covered. And in fact, 2nd May has been an important date. Specifically, let's look at the sector of the toys. And over there, what has happened is that the Trump administration has done away with a provision which was there in the United States, wherein items which were being imported, which were costing less than $800 US dollars, they did not go through customs, and they could be brought directly and delivered at the various places they were being ordered for in the United States, including individual residences. I see that there are two companies from China which was giving toys, and they used to have no warehouse, and they would just fly in their toys directly and deliver them, as if they are being delivered from within the United States. And this, from 2nd May onward, suddenly something which was coming in without tariff has now got 145% tariff if it's coming from China. So this is a big shock for them, and so suddenly their costs, they would, if they bring the things in, put them in warehouses and then sell, their costs go up. So that itself is a problem. It's going to be difficult for them to shift their production to USA. And the second thing is that while there is some talk about some little bit of chit chat on happening on some sort of a trade deal, but the very hard stance which has been taken by China, and the likelihood of the Chinese, normally they do not want to do anything which shows that they had to back down. That's the sense I'm getting from what I'm listening in the news. So if they are not going to back down easily, they are going to also try to bargain, because there's pressure on the United States also, as you brought out. So I do not see that this deal is something which is possible from both sides. Doesn't seem to be happening very quickly. In any case, this 90 days period is there. So that's one point. The one point is that in the immediate future, I don't see some deal happening. And I certainly is opening up a large number of doors for India. And over here, I make a point which I have again been observing over the years, and that is that we are a democracy and China is not. So what happens is in China, some people sitting in a room decide what the Chinese economy is going to do. So the problem that is great, in some ways, but it's got a problem. That is the rise of the economy then is impacted upon by these people only. And over here in India, when our economy rises, it's like the sea level rising. Everybody rises with it, and it's not going to change its direction overnight in any way because it's a democratic rise. And the whatever we are able to do, for example, there's news now. Most of the Apple products which are being sourced into USA from China are now going to be sourced out of India. So which is great news for us. And not only that, now the moment Apple starts sourcing everything, then our technology manufacturing companies, I have not named them, they are bound to benefit because the environment gets created over here. And we have been doing this for a long time in India for mobiles other than Apple. And once it settles down in India, so the thing advantage of any company settling down in India, I feel is, as opposed to China, very clearly, is that our policies are, they will remain for a long time. And as a result, they can expect something like that too. In fact, our policies remain longer, if I may say so, than USA also, where certain changes are happening. That is one factor. So that means the manufacturing shifting here, especially toys as well as mobiles. So there are two areas which China was doing very well in. Purely India-China competition in the stock market point of view. The third thing which I want to also take your view on is the European Union has come together and they have said that on aluminum and steel, they will put tariffs after because they are still there, by the way, from USA to Europe, they're still active. But they said, okay, fine, we'll hold on to this. But in the meantime, they are already, because there are 27 nations which are part of EU and they are all coming together and trying to figure out a common response to the USA. So they have that sort of a response in the pipeline and it may be ready by this 90-day period gets over in July. So if there is something which comes back in tariff form, there may be a response from EU. So these are the various factors. So purely in timelines, and you talked about the aspect of the the poll ratings in United States, that gets reflected on next year's midterm elections in the United States. So the timeline is very clear now. Timeline is Europe, the 90 days getting over, Europe's response, China trade deal likely to take time, and the next year looming midterm elections in USA. So all these factors, and with India having a huge opportunity over here, so there's a lot of things to actually get your arms around. So you are an expert on, you've been studying this topic. So maybe this also you can tell our viewers something, and also guide them as to how they should look at the investments which are now coming ahead of them. Over to you, SK.
Sir, you touched a very, very vast canvas covering the whole globe, and you have very rightly summed up the timelines as to how the US is going to be affected by various factors, and each decision being taken bilaterally with these countries will have a different impact on the economy. First and the foremost, I will still focus on what India is looking at, because this is the first step that we are looking at within this probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks time frame. That the US has also announced that we will finish the first trade deal with India. So I think like the sector that you touched upon, when I said India is looking into tech and AI and chip manufacturing, but in the majority of the goods sector, India is also looking at the steel sector. They're also looking at tariff cut in steel and aluminum exports. So that will be a very good boost for our metal sector. As also, we are a very large production of pharma products, the CDMO products that we are making, the generic medicines, on which we today also form a large part of the US imports. So I think we are also looking at a lot of relief in the pharma sector, and our observations that used to come from the US industry on the pharma hygiene observations. We have already taken steps to reduce those observations. So now with this pharma industry coming in, I think the tariff there can be easily resolved, and that will give a very good boost to our pharma sector. So there are various opportunities, even in the bilateral trade with the US, where we can focus on, as we brought out, that is the AI, the chip manufacturing, the pharma sector, the metal sector to an extent, but all will depend on the outcome of. So these are the sectors which are beyond our individual consumption, that is the consumption within the country. But sir, I would like to draw a little caution here. I was just reading a post of the Vice President of the US today morning, Washington Post, where he has stated he has not taken this first 100 days, whatever polls have come. It may be a political statement from their side, but they said, and I'd like to just quote a portion of it, which says, in just 100 days, Trump administration began to tear down the tariff barriers. And he said something else, and he finished by saying that the Trump still feels that the best is yet to come. Now, this statement is laden with a lot of words. How it's going to unfold, we don't know, and to which country it is going to impact. But I see at the present geopolitical status, India is slightly more protected, and probably the difficult measures may not come against us, with our government and our officials being very, very diplomatic in their maneuvering of this economic policy. I think we should come out as a winner. That's what I feel. But I would also like to quote one interview I was hearing, sir. This interview of Jeffrey Sachs. He's an American economist, almost in his 70s. He's not associated with the government and all that. But certain lines that he gave in his interview to one of the social media channels, he says, and which is worth paying attention to, he says that US wants to use India against China at the moment. It has no goodwill for India, and the game is that what we can do to displace China, that is what US can do to displace China in the near term. He also goes on to say that Trump will not open doors for the Indian manufacturing sector. It's not going to be our running away into their sector, because he wants to protect his own manufacturing sector. He wants to get his own business there. The low-cost industry should not destroy the American industry. These are quote-unquote words stated by him. And he says that Donald Trump doesn't want the supply chains to come. And what he means by saying that no sooner does the situation comes under control, probably what we are thinking that we are going too close to US and all that, we have to exercise that also with caution. So we have to find the best trade deal today that has a lasting impact, that goes on beyond the present crisis. So even if the Trump is able to manage the tariff war well at the end of his 100 days or 90 days pause, we should still not get affected by negativity of it coming in thereafter. I think that is where the art lies presently. So I will still focus myself on these sectors that I just mentioned as far as the trade deal with US is concerned, and thereafter homing on to the internal economy. And internal economy is going to be impacted by our geopolitical situation, which is building up. So we have to really study in a very overall perspective and take decisions for short-term measures and not be greedy as investors, because greed is not going to take us anywhere. We got to be pragmatic and we got to invest accordingly. So,
well, thank you very much, General Ahmed. It's as always been wonderful listening to you, and I look forward to listening to setting up this video when I'm going to be uploading and listening to you once again. And then I'm sure, as I said, within the family and friend circle also, people are looking forward to this interview. Because with that, we come to an end to this particular interaction with General Ahmed. We hope to have him back on our channel again. Thank you for tuning in and listening. Jai Hind.